everybody, it's Allison. Welcome to my YouTube channel. Today we're going to be looking at the latest collaboration for STAMPtember, and that is Memory Box. We're also going to be looking at Poppystamps' newest release, and you'll see I have mixed the collaboration with some of the new Poppystamps, and that's because Poppystamps and Memory Box are related companies, in case you did not know that. So here is the new collaboration. It's called Good Cheer, and I think it's really adorable. And there is a matching die set, so you can get just the stamps or you can get the stamps and the dies. Now, these stamps are modeled after some of the newest dies from Memory Box. So the penguin, both penguins and the snowman are available as dies. So that's pretty cool because, you know, sometimes these collaborations sell out. So it's nice to know that the dies are there if you like the designs. All right, having said that, I do want to let you know that these are now live. If you do want these stamps and dies before they sell out, head over to Simon Says Stamp. There are links below. And one other thing, fair warning, I am not in my normal spot for recording voiceovers right now, so you might hear some strange like popping noises through the video, so I apologize ahead of time for that. All right, so let's take a look at the new Poppystamps release. This is the Nordic Winter Magic release, and you can see there's a lot of stuff here. I'm going to kind of breeze through this. You're welcome to pause it, or I'll have a link below to the whole collection so you can go see everything. And on the website, the Poppy website and Memory Box and Birch Press Design, they always have these beautiful catalogs. So I always love going to look at the catalogs and the idea books that they have. And the Poppystamps winter release is always one of my favorites. Well, Poppystamps is just one of my favorites. And the reason I have all these die sets, in case you did not know, I am on the Poppystamps design team. So that's why I have all these. And let's get to the first card. All right, so we're going to start with a cling stamp, a rubber cling stamp. So I have my other Misty. I have two Misties. This is my other Misty that does not have my grip mat in it. It does have the little mouse pad thing in it. So I'm going to take that out because I'm using a cling stamp. And I'm putting in my stamp and stencil mat. This is from Simon Says Stamp, and it's sticky, but it's thin. It's not like the grip mat. And I'm going to put my cling stamp on top, and that sticky mat is going to hold my paper in place while I stamp this. I am going to use some anti-static powder because I am going to emboss this panel. And I just have to say, I miss rubber stamps. I don't really personally understand what the issue is with rubber stamps. I guess the rubber's not available, but you know, I just have always loved rubber stamps for techniques. So today we're going to be doing a pretty simple technique. I'm just going to emboss this with white embossing powder. And because I'm using white paper, I could have used clear embossing powder as well. Now this sticky mat is pretty sticky, so I just bend it to get the paper off. So I'm going to go ahead and put the powder on and then heat it up with my heat tool. Now, a lot of times I would use shimmer powders on this, but today we're just going to be doing some simple ink blending with some distress oxides. Yeah, usually I would always look forward to having a day of making backgrounds like this. where I would just take a bunch of cling stamps and heat emboss them and either do shimmer powders or, you know, ink blend like this. So I am just very lightly coming in with these two colors. Of course, this color did not come in light at all, so I'm going to leave that part for the bottom, and I'm going to start trying to blend in more of this Salvaged Patina. But it's just a really easy panel. It's, you know, it's supposed to be the sky, and these stars on this stamp are really beautiful. So it's hard to mess up the panel when you're just using oxides and, you know, doing a soft blend. So now I'm taking my cloth and just wiping off the ink from the embossing powder so those stars become white again. And here is what we have for our background. All right, so here are the stamps, and I have used this die from Spellbinders just to cut a little hill. You don't really end up seeing much of the hill, so you could easily just cut this by hand. This is the new Nordic Swirl tree. This is from the Poppystamps release. And there are 3 pieces to this die. And these are the scalloped pinpoint frames. And I just want to show you how most of the Poppystamps dies come packaged. It comes with a magnet sheet. How awesome is that? All right, each of these dies cuts a scalloped frame and then a pierced panel. So you get 2 pieces. I'm going to use the frame on this card and the panel on this second card. So here's the frame that goes around that panel, and the panel has this pierced dot detail. Now, obviously, I'm working on 2 cards at once. Now, this Joy is the Nordic Layered Joy, again, part of the Poppystamps release. And I cut it from this paper, from this pad. This has a lot of matte metallic paper, which I love. I like shiny metallic paper, but lately I've been loving the matte. These are greeting tabs from Memory Box. They have all sorts of greeting tabs. They're kind of like little chipboard, and they have gold foiled letters on them. So I am making these letters with white on the bottom, but you'll see there's like a cutout detail in the white, and later on I will fill that in with gold metallic paper just to tie in with that gold foil on that tab. All right, I am going to pull in some pattern paper. Again, this is from Memory Box, just as a background for this card, and this has foil as well. So all of these Memory Box plaid papers, actually most of their paper packs, one side has foil accents and the other side does not. All right, we are flip-flopping back to this card, and I am just making little dots on the rim of this snowman's hat with 2 different colors of green, and I'm leaving a lot of white in there as well, just to make it look like a fuzzy hat. And you'll see I have a second snowman here because I like to practice, so I usually stamp the same thing twice just in case I mess up. And speaking of messing up, I wasn't crazy about how I colored the scarf, so I paper pieced this. Now, I stamped the penguin onto pattern paper. This is from Lawn Fawn, this paper. And I just fussy cut it. So the stamp detail is on there. And what I will do is glue it to the actual stamp. But before I do that, I am going to add some shading. And so here's what it's going to look like. But I'm going to add some shading, and you can always add shading to anything with a gray marker. So this is my warm gray, which I think the warm grays are some of my most used markers. Not that I use my Copics very often, and I don't like coloring in my videos. But I just wanted to show you that I did add shading with my warm grays. And so now I am going to glue this on. Now, I did not glue the little tassels at the end because I liked kind of having the dimension of having them not glued down, because you can kind of see the tassels underneath. Anyway, I like paper piecing. I don't do it very often because obviously it includes stamping. And I haven't been stamping and coloring a lot because I'm addicted to die cutting. But look at how cute these guys are. And every time I do stamp and color, I always think to myself, why don't I do this more often? Because they're just so cute. And isn't this guy just so cute holding the J? And by the way, you may have just heard my little pup, Maggie, who is sitting next to me while I do this voiceover. So if you do hear anything strange during this video, that's what's going on. All right, let's take a look at this last card, and this is all Poppystamps. This is the diamond oval pinpoint background die, and I only ran this through my die cutting machine once. If I had run it through again, it would have popped out a lot of those little pieces, but I'm just using my tool-in-one from Spellbinders, and I had that foam pad that helps me get all those little pieces out. Now, I like tone-on-tone look with dies like this, but you can also put it on a colored background, and it looks really cool. But for this card, I am going to go with a tone-on-tone. It just, you see all the texture, but it's just more subtle. All right, here is the Nordic Sweet Angel, and she is so sweet. I wanted to show you something about the Poppystamps packages. They are true to size. So whenever you are in doubt as to how to assemble something, you just put it right on the packaging. And you know that I love assembling things my own way and making things my own, but they just make it so easy. So I always do this when I assemble my Poppystamps dies. I just slap it on the package and line it up. And if there's any doubt, like, with the wings, I can line up the wings exactly like they are in the picture. All right, now I stamped my panel with an old stamp set from MFT. I love these little sentiments, and this is that scalloped pinpoint frame again, and this time I used the panel and the frame together. And so here's what I was talking about, the wings. Just lining it up on the packaging. And I just think it's so clever that they do this. Not clever, just helpful. Helpful and clever. All right, so I am just going to add some glue here, and I did add some pieces on the back just to make everything level before I glued it. And this was a really easy card to put together. And obviously I cut everything out in white cardstock, and then I did ink blending. You can kind of tell that the colors aren't solid. I go back and forth as to whether I like clean, just pure cardstock in my die cuts, or doing ink blending like this. And I thought with this sweet angel that the ink blending just looks really sweet. All right, that is it for me today. I know that this was kind of a crazy all over the place video, so I apologize for that. There's just days where my desk is a mess, and so is my brain, and I'm working on multiple things at once, and that's just how it is. I appreciate you joining me today. let me know in the comments. Are you a memory box fan? Are you a Poppystamps fan? Are you a birch press design fan? Or all three like me? They each have their own, character to them for sure. All right. Thanks again. I will see you next time. Bye-bye.